This is the Vision with Execution show. My name's Adam Torkelson. I'm an angel investor, accredited investor, father of two, married for 20 years. I live in Utah. And my guest today is Michelle B. Griffin. She's an award-winning author. She's a bestseller on Amazon. And Michelle, this is an awesome opportunity for me. And this is sort of a record-setting show for me because you are my first female guest on my show. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm actually honored to be the first female to really talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart. So I can't wait to get in and talk about further all the things that you bring to the show, Adam.
Awesome. So two of the main questions I always ask everybody, and hopefully you've had a little bit of chance to think about this already, given that I know you're a driven person. So those of us who start our own companies and who have a lot of drive, we're pretty good at imagining what we want to accomplish first, like creating a vision in our minds and then going out and getting it done, executing on it. So my first question I always ask my guests is, what is your vision for 2025? That could be personal or in your business. Whatever you've imagined in your head, whatever that vision you've created, I really would love to know.
Well, that's a wonderful question. It's so fitting because behind me, you'll see the first of the Own Your Lane book series that I recently, launched, published. And I released my 4-step personal branding framework to get more people out there in a bigger way, more brilliant people to break free from obscurity and share their brilliance with the world. And the irony is, it's an Own Your Lane framework. L is launch your vision. You have to have a vision out there. And it's knowing what you want, where you want to go. And there's a twofold reason in that. And it's also knowing your purpose. Your professional purpose will drive that vision. And so that's where I'm dropping that in. So my vision for this year is to take this whole framework and me get out in a bigger way, speaking, training, being on podcasts with, PR and publicity, and just to really empower people to get out there, to break free, to put themselves out there, the first thing, because let's face it, to own your lane, you first, and another passionate topic, it's all just one big circle, I guess, is to the cost of staying hidden and the power and the payoff of putting yourself out there. So for me, it's twofold. It's helping others do that and me doing the same in a international level at that. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk about that and be here today.
So one of the things about owning your own lane, I think men and women approach that idea differently. And I don't know, I'm coming from a biased male perspective. So when I think about owning my own lane, I really don't think about anybody else besides myself. When I think I'm going to go own my own lane and it doesn't matter who's in my way and no one's going to stop me, I'm not going to let somebody tell me I can't do it. I'm just going to go do it. If I imagine it in my head, then I expect it to become a reality. And that's just the way that I have always thought ever since I was a kid on my first paper route when I was 8 years old, having to get chased by dogs. You got to pedal pretty fast to get past those dogs. But women, on the other hand, and I'm just coming at this from the perspective of what my wife has told me. We've been married 20 years, and she's helped me see things a little bit better from a female perspective, which is owning your own lane has way more to do with how other people perceive you. The other people around you, women care so much about the people around them and how those people feel. And women are trying so hard to help everybody feel good and comfortable and emotionally safe. And I don't know if that's just an innate trait that women have better than men, but of all the women I know in my life that I work with or that I'm related to, whether it's my own mom or my wife, my own daughter, you're so good at looking out for the other people that you're interacting with and trying to understand how they feel about the process. Whereas me, I'm just bulldozing ahead like a bull in a china shop, and I don't care what the fallout is. And there are definite pros, but also cons to that approach. So I'd love to give you a platform for talking to women who might be listening to my show. Frankly, there might be none at this point because I've had only men on my show. But if there are women listening to this, I'd love it if you'd talk to them about owning their own lane.
Yeah, well, thank you. And that's a wonderful topic. And a year ago, I launched something called standoutwomen.org. And that is something, an initiative I see that there is a gap, that there's not enough, not only just visible women, but standout women. We might see you, but are you really standing out? Are you just tipping your toes? And I don't want to point the fingers at everyone's like this, because there are obviously men and women in all different shapes. We're all, owning our own lanes. But from personal experience, for me and for the clients that I've worked with, friends that I know, the vast majority of women are held back. And it can be twofold. It can be that empathy thing. We bring a very emotional side of things. When you're telling me about you being driven ever since you were 8 and doing your paper route, I immediately probably thought, I wonder what your Clifton strengths. It's probably like execution is your number one strength. I bet. Am I
Yeah.
right? Something
Yeah.
close? Yeah. Yeah.
It
Mine
is.
is empathy. I did the paid version a couple years ago, and mine was empathy. And when I found out my strength, that really told me a lot of why I do the things I do. And so it's really important to have self-awareness, self-realization on how we are. There's nothing wrong with how we are, but just realize it. And that's a lot of what I do in this framework, is really getting that internal clarity, because it's fine. We embrace who we are, and we just realize, okay, that's how I see the world. But that doesn't mean that's a good or bad thing. We just, go with it on who we are and, for what we want. And there's not a good or bad thing. But I am here, and the reason I created this framework, and I just want to get out here in such a big way, it's not about me. It's truly about those who have brilliance, women especially, who are just have the fear of being hidden and held back or waiting too long. The cost of staying hidden is tremendous. And I get it. We think this. What will people think of me? I don't want to be judged. What if I say something stupid? It's already been said. Also, I don't want to come across as salesy, narcissistic, or self-promotional. Those are very much the inner things, or we have imposter syndrome. And the good news is that we all have imposter syndrome at some degree. And it's just a way of us, knowing that we need to go bigger. So my thing is that I have, my next book will be The Power and the Payoff of Putting Yourself Out There. I try to empower people to know that it is absolutely your gift that you have, your message, your story, your transformation. That it's not about you. Don't hold on to it. It's a gift that you need to bring to the world. So when you flip the switch and say, look, I got to get out there, but it's not about me. It's because I have something that can help someone. And it's almost like your obligation, and I trust me, I know that your listeners, your viewers here, I can imagine that most are driven by getting, of course you want to make money, have fulfillment, but bringing impact and legacy to the world. And that's another layer of this. So, on a very high philosophical level, those are some of the things that I see. Yes, women, there's a gap. I call it the visibility gap. I'm trying to fix it. And let's acknowledge these fears. But let's flip the switch and say, it's not of self, it's of service. And that's how I tell you, when the days that I don't want to get out there, and there are those days a lot, I have that North Star guiding me, because I got to get back in the game. It's not about me.
That's awesome. My 14-year-old daughter, I'm actually her coach for her basketball team. And one of the things in our relationship that I struggle with right now is trying to help her see how good she actually is
Yeah.
and what her potential is, because she already has a million doubts about everything that she's capable of doing. And it's hard to do as a parent, and
Mm-hmm.
it's especially hard trying to do that internally as an entrepreneur who has self-doubts, you're right. All of us, we have this internal voice that is telling us we're not good enough. We can't do this. Why would anyone care what we say? These are all thoughts I've personally had. And I've been through a lot of therapy to try and rewire my brain to think differently. And my wife's actually a therapist, and
Mm.
she's processed me a few times. She does something called emotional release therapy.
Mm.
And it's most of her clients are women,
Mm-hmm.
for better or worse, but it's something men and women all struggle with, the
Mm-hmm.
negative self-talk. And I love putting a spotlight on that fact. It is a fact of life for
Yeah,
everybody.
absolutely.
So that I love that you brought that up. The second question I always love to ask my guests has to do with the first question, which was, what is your vision for 2025? The second question, how are you going to execute that into reality?
I love that because execution is your number one strength, and that's so good. And number two on mine is ideation. So when you get an ideator and an executor, that's pure magic, right? So thank you personally for asking me that because ideation is such a gift for me. But let's talk about if you have too many ideas as an entrepreneur, as a person, that does you no good unless you make that happen.
Right.
So one of the things that I've done is I've simplified everything. I'm someone who gets caught in the weeds over things, I don't even like to use the P word, but that perfectionism can, derail me. I recently was meeting with one of my coaches who's a high performance coach, and we really broke it down that what has been really bogged me down from executing more is the cage of perfectionism, of overthinking and overcomplicating. So I recently have simplified everything, hence the 4-step thing. And what I do, I have outlined that I'm going to do one more book this year and that I am pitching myself to speak and to host workshops. So I have 3 things that I'm doing this year that will get me further because I realize getting in front of other people to share my message, empower people, will be the snowball effect I need to reach more people. I made a vision on my about section on my michellebgriffin.com website. I put a bold vision in 10 years from now, I want to touch 1 million people. Now you're like, 1 million people, but let's break this down. And I've broken it down in my own files, but if through books, podcasts, my 2 podcasts, content on LinkedIn, newsletters, speaking, that's very doable in 10 years. Like that's totally, and I'm talking about someone listening to something you say, a podcast download, that at the bare minimum is so doable. And that's what I want to encourage your listeners, your viewers who have something that needs to get out there. You're right. Launch that vision, but let's execute it and put the numbers to it. And I'm not a numbers person at all. So that was really hard for me. So I have a twofold thing. I have the numbers thing, and I also have a visual Canva vision board. Now, I'm not a total woo-woo person. Like these vision boards like you see on Instagram, they're total fluff. Nope. I went and did specificity. Specificity sells and clarity compels are like 2 of my favorite sayings. So I went and at the end of last year, I just put all these visuals of what I want to see this year, next year, and the 10 years, and I put the actual pictures of them happening. And so with my numbers, my visuals, and my numbers, I'm working to those goals. And I'm happy to say 1 or 2 has already come true. So I'm really excited about that. So that's me personally. And wouldn't you agree that everyone has different ways they execute and makes it happen? It's not a one size fits all.
Well, yeah, and that's why I love asking the question to each person I have on my show, because they all have vastly different visions, number
Mm-hmm.
one. And number two, how they execute on them. I've never had someone say the same thing twice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just an inspiration to me, because I tend to pick up 1 or 2 little things from each person I talk to. And I
Mm-hmm.
really like your saying specificity compels clarity, or impels.
Specificity sells and clarity compels because
Okay,
you have to be
awesome.
super specific on who you are so the right people connect. and what you want and what you're going to go after. Not like, oh, I just want to do better in my business. Well, what is the actual number? It's a mindset shift though, too. It's like you can start telling yourself, we're retraining our brain. This is the number I got to reach. And if you don't have a specific thing, your brain can't latch onto it. And I'm no expert in all this either, but it's just personal observation and, use. And clarity compels. Let's be clear on what we want with ourselves, and then let others know what we want and how we're doing it, right? Otherwise, people can't latch on to our big message and beliefs and platform otherwise, right?
Right. And the way that we believe about ourselves, what we believe about ourselves, we invite other people to believe about us as well.
Yeah.
I very much believe that's true. Whatever happens to us in our lives, we're inviting it in, whether consciously or not. We are inviting our own reality to be what it is we're experiencing. So that has huge implications, negative and positive.
No one's going to get excited about our work unless we're excited first. We're not going to get excited about our work until we have absolute clarity and specificity on who we are and what we want and how we're going to get there. That's it. That's why, on a bigger level, that's why I developed my 4-step Own Your Lane to get, it's a personal branding journey roadmap to get you out there in a bigger way with your message. And it's not about fluffy. It's foundational stuff, because you have brilliance. This listener, this viewer, we all have our own journeys, and that's the way out there. So you're absolutely right about that, Adam.
So Michelle, one of the things I always like to add a personal element to each episode that I do. And I don't really have a set formula for how I do that, but I was looking at your website on your homepage. It says, at the heart of your work is your signature Own Your Lane branding roadmap, the framework you've developed to help professionals break free from comparison, articulate their value, and elevate their visibility. And you do that through your platform, your books, and your podcasts. The next section I thought was really interesting. When you're not helping others get visible, you're outdoors in Florida walking to fun 80s tunes.
Yes. I put the personal element. Now you can laugh and relate to that maybe too, right?
Well, I honestly believe 80s music is some of the best that's ever been created.
Yes.
Just there's so many unique, wildly different music genres that were breaking out in the 80s. Mm-hmm. You had your country music, but then you had your pop, your disco, your rap was coming out in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
All these genres. Yeah.
New wave, the alternative. Yeah, it was a glorious time for music. And it's creative, and it matches my brand. And also people always light up on it, because I don't care what your age is. Most people know and can recount a lot of 80s tunes because they're fun, they're upbeat, and we need so much of that now, right? So that's why I latch on to that. And I just love to dance. Now, if you ever asked me to sing karaoke 80s music, I would have to turn you down, because even though you ad lib, I cannot sing. It's an embarrassing thing. But that's why I make it up for it. I just love to dance and just be happy and be out there. But you see how I added that layer of personality and relatability in that thing right up front. Like, it could be buried in my about page, but I brought it up front because more people have told me that. And at the end of the day, we just want to start a conversation to build that human connection that we all crave and need more than ever.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so glad that you called that out and brought it up. Humans are wired for connection. It's literally the way our brains are meant to work. So I'm super glad you had that on there, so that it made it even easier for me to connect with you, even though you're really easy to talk to, and you're obviously a really nice person inside and out. So that's always good. I like surrounding myself with those kind of people, because the kind of people you surround yourself with, that tends to be what you end up becoming.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I love podcasting. And I know that you're a host. I have 2 shows, and you just meet the most fantastic people that maybe you wouldn't have met otherwise. and you're just, exposed to their personality, their vibe, their points of view. I learn something every time that I host and I'm interviewed. And I believe that is the chains of human connection we need to keep building, especially in the age of AI and automation. I'm not knocking AI. I think it's a wonderful summarizing tool, but I never want us to take away the humanness of who we are, because I mean, that's us, right? Why would we change that? I know I'm getting off on a whole different subject, but connection is really one of my huge core values. And it's really what I do. I'm connecting people, I'm helping them communicate and just give them that clarity and confidence. And if we're armed with all those tools, we have all these soft skills or really just needed skills, we're all going to get out there in the way that we're supposed to. And also, can I use the word, we are going to get out there. We're not going to stay hidden and held back. I personally have stayed hidden and held back on numerous occasions. And I think that's one of the saddest things. As they say, the graveyard is one of the richest places in the world, more than Wall Street or Silicon Valley, because that is where people who were hidden and held back and never made that great leap. There's a lot of untapped potential, books that never got read, the change that never happened. I mean, you name it, it actually makes me tear up. And that's a lot of why I do what I do, so that we can get out there in a bigger way and execute, right? Bring you in, execution on those beautiful dreams.
Yeah, I don't ever say that I'm any kind of expert on executing things, but that's again, that's why I ask other people the question, because I do always want to be better at executing my own visions into reality. So this is sort of like my way. My show is like my way of learning how to do that better in my life. And the last thing I'd like to touch on really quickly is we've talked about connection and how humans are wired for that. I've got a background in addiction recovery, meaning I'm sober almost 9 years now. And
Congrats.
thank you. One of the things I learned early on was that connection is the opposite of addiction.
Mm.
The 12-step program really helps emphasize the concept of you can't do it by yourself, and that's a two-part thing. You have to recognize that there's a higher power, for one thing, that's helping us, but also the reason why we go to these group meetings is because when we connect with other people that are going through the same thing, it gives us all power to step outside of the need that we're trying to fill with our substance and connecting with humans, which is what we're actually trying to do. That's what our brain is trying to tell us to do. But we cut ourselves short when we put a substance in there instead of a human connection. So I always love just calling that out and letting other people know that addictions are real and a lot of people have them, and they are something that can help us become better if we recognize that they're there and get some help, because you can't do it by yourself.
Absolutely. I never have heard, and I love the way you put it. Addiction is, the connection thing. And the human connection can be a drug. I'm now working 5 years in my business. Right when I started, the pandemic happened. We all had no choice. But about 2 or 3 years into it, I started getting really just low and just, I don't know, just I felt off and I just couldn't place it. What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? And then it hit me. I can't live behind a screen. I can't live entirely working remotely. I have to get out because I know myself. I know I am an extroverted person. I'm powered up. I guess my drug of choice is people and connection. It powers me up. And so we have to recognize that too. So the human connection can be we can call it a drug too, a powerful good for, or maybe we should call it a vitamin or something, that we need it and it's a good thing. And without it, we really suffer. It's like our cell phones not having charge. And so I recognize that, just like maybe when you recognize the breaking point of your abuse, substance abuse or addiction, human connection can fill the void for that. So not just for those, and I agree 100% the addiction, because I've never been through that, but I can only relate, and I completely congratulate you on 9 years. That's incredible. But just for those, like, say, working remotely, working, by themselves, don't think you can do it alone too. We have to have, even as entrepreneurs, we have to have people. And I even think the balance, at least for me, is to get on Zooms like this and for people all over the world. Like, I know now I can talk to people all over the world, which is super cool. But in my own city of Pensacola, Florida, it lights me up to be out and talking to people there too. So I think the balance, what works for you, and the human connection can help you flourish in ways you never knew.
Very much agreed. This is all the time I've got for our show, and I'm sort of the personality where I like to get things done and do them efficiently, but also provide value every time. So this is only the 11th episode, 11th or 12th I've ever recorded so far. And so as I go, I'm probably going to change my format a little bit, I guess. But today's episode has been a record-setting one for me personally, having my first female guest on and everything. And I'm hoping to have lots more awesome women on, powerful, confident women, showing other women what's possible. So thank you so much for your example and for taking the time to be on my show. This has been the Vision with Execution show. I'm Adam Torkelson. My
Thank
guest,
you.
Michelle B. Griffin, has been an awesome guest. And I hope you all have an awesome day.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.